I have faith that the Constitution will be saved as prophesied by Joseph Smith. But it will not be saved in Washington.
That nothing except the power of faith and the authority of the priesthood can save individuals and congregations from the atomic holocausts that surely shall be.
And a major city yet to be determined in Russia. These are the latter days.
Travis Wayne Goodsell. We're getting the warm before the storm, so the fan came out early today. I also see I've got a breakout video that I haven't had since Brad Wilcox, when the church finally silenced everybody on that one to make sure I don't get any more views on that one, other than the few stragglers now and again. So, as Nelson is performing the nothing to see here, move along, Jesus will save everybody, Jesus will heal everybody, Jesus will cure everybody, Jesus will give peace. It's very obvious that Nelson does not care to do his job. And I've been doing videos for several years now explaining why. And unfortunately, others do not see it. I keep saying to ex-Mormons that the Book of Mormon is true, as it testifies of the great and abominable church. I keep telling Mormons the Book of Mormon is true, as my videos all are from scriptures. I use Mormon scripture to do my videos. Now, because of the way social media is set up, and the church having destroyed me, and getting YouTube to silence me, it's been a struggle since my first big breakout video back in July of 2017, which is getting closer to, is it 40,000? It is unfortunate that I cannot be treated as an equal, that the information that I have, because of my being born and raised Mormon and the education that I pursued as a consequence thereof, has turned me into a threat as perceived by the church, because the church paid for this war. They paid for nukes. I talked about how I collected all of the Brigham Young discourses. And so I have Journal of Discourses, Volume 10, page 329 and 332. But it was by a subscriber who commented about whether I knew about Bishop John H. Coyle and his Moroni visit, that I found the source for what the church said was the final straw and destroyed my life. I lost another of my stuff today as a result of their actions, and I keep losing stuff. It's just a downward spiral. I can't pull out. I'm trapped. But this was the book, and it turns out it comes from Brigham Young. As first I found a member of the 70 who put it in one of his Latter-day books and didn't reference it, and so I didn't know where it came from. I assumed it was him until I found Way to Perfection, and then I thought it was him who was the origin. Well, turns out Brigham Young is the origin. From that speech, I will quote the following: "The earth and the kingdoms thereof will be given unto the saints of the Most High God." And I've gone over the real church history for you, correcting the history even of ex-Mormons, because that history came mostly from September 6th, as they were faithful Mormons, but stumbled upon information that they tried to reconcile and harmonize with what the church was lying about. Except for Paul. Paul still holds a grudge. But Avraham Gileadi, he was begging and pleading to come back, saying it was all a mistake. He didn't understand what's going on. Why is he being excommunicated? And D. Michael Quinn, he wanted to still be Mormon. You know, his Mormonism and the Magic World view was a desperate attempt to try to merge the folklore, as he called it, rather than witchcraft, with the church. And the church has partially submitted, because they've released that, yeah, there was one rock of Joseph's. And it's the bright, shiny one. And was used for the translation by the gift and power of God of the Book of Mormon. But no explanation is given. And as a Mormon, I'm wondering, why is Joseph Smith the only one who sees angels and Heavenly Father and Jesus and gets gold plates and is translating and all of this fantastical, wonderful, supernatural type events, and not a single other president since him, as claimed by Brigham Young's successors? They've all been boring and human. One of my popular publications, which, yeah, I titled it wrong, but it was just my research on what each and every single president of the church had accomplished during his presidency. There really isn't anything special. You know, starting the welfare program, starting the youth programs, joining Boy Scouts, you know, changing the 70, you know, none of that is as fantastic as publishing a translation of an ancient book and visiting angels and prophesying and all that stuff. And it never made sense to me as a kid. But having learned the real church history, yeah, I now found that the church has been, under Brigham Young, plotting to take over the world. Born and raised Mormon, as they tell me that I was held in reserve to be in the one true church, with Jesus as our Christian Christ. And that I'm special and privileged, and I was the obedient one in the premortal council, and so I was blessed to come into a good Mormon family. As that kind of is racist. Because those who are not Mormon, they come to Utah as converts, and their kids go to seminary with Mormon kids. And yeah, there's been too many child suicides here in Utah. But that was Brigham Young's plot, was to raise up an army with his kingdom of Deseret for the western half of the United States. And the United States defeated him. But there it is, his intention to still eventually conquer the world. And so when Nelson got up at his solemn assembly and announced the temple in Russia. You can hear the Mormon audience cheering. And I'm going, oh crap. Because I knew Putin. I know what he's doing. And he will be using nukes. Because by stripping him financially, it will force him into a corner. He cannot back down. He's been planning and plotting this for decades. At least a decade. He purposely did what he did when he did it because of his premeditated planning. And now everybody, because of Ukraine's strong resistance, miraculous almost, he is now being considered a loser and mentally deranged and a failure as a military leader, and etc. And those are only going to provoke him more to push the button. I saw a news article about, do we have a defense against ICBMs? And the answer is, it's still being built. Oh dear God. I thought we had something. I mean, Israel's got something, but stuff gets through. Oh dear God. And so yes, if a whole barrage of missiles get launched, we're not going to be able to prevent all of them from landing on American soil and exploding. So, yeah, get your kids home. This is not the time where you want to be separated as a family. You do not want to die alone. You do not want to have your loved ones die alone, trapped in a foreign country. Get them home. If you've got to go against the church to get your kids home, what's more important to you? The leader of the church who claims that it's the true church of the true God, as he's putting your kids in danger? Or your family? You know, he only pulled Ukrainian missionaries. That's it. He didn't even rescue the Mormons. He didn't send aid to the Mormons in Ukraine, who are now at the borders if they're not fighting in the war. Nelson has dropped the ball, if you believe that he's a good, innocent person. I know better. I've been paying attention, putting the pieces together, doing the research nobody else is doing. So let's go over some of the news to update you on that. Remember that asterisk 45 that was in our White House, and how he was purposely hiding phone conversations with Putin? Yeah. It's very clear Putin was given a lot of classified national security information that Putin wanted from him, and they were given to him. We have yet to know what they were. Keep that in mind. it's now coming out that Putin actually ordered the assassination of the Ukrainian president, just like the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints ordered my assassination. Birds of a feather flock together. Russian diplomats were expelled from the UN today. So that does seem to fit the fulfillment of the sign in the heavens, in case you were wondering. It's a government thing, I said. This is a government thing, kicking out the diplomats. FIFA. That's the real football, not the American football. Suspended the Russian teams indefinitely from the sport. The location had to be changed because of the war, and so now they've decided, yeah, we're not having Russia involved at all. The Shell Oil, Gas and Oil, the Shell company, they've pulled out of all contracts and business with Russia. The CEO said, that's it, that's all, we're out. The biggest use of gasoline, or whatever fuel is used for the biggest plane in the world, has been destroyed anyway. Russia destroyed it in the bombing attacks on the airports. And so the biggest plane in the world is no longer in existence, and so some other plane is now the biggest plane in the world, whichever that is. You remember Marriott? I think it's John Marriott, Brother Marriott, Mormon, of the Marriott Hotels. Mormon? Yeah, he's got hotels in Russia, and he's not closing those hotels, saying, I'm out, I protest Russia. Mormons are still doing business with Russia. That's something for you to understand. And so Putin already knew this would be the consequences of him doing the war. Like I said, he's planned and prepared this. He knew of this potential consequence, that everyone would hate him and turn on him and destroy his economy. He already knew this. For you to say he's stupid and a failure and crazy, no. You do not understand. And then the heart-crushing one is that a former Miss Ukraine has chosen to stay and fight. Almost as heartbreaking as the one wife or girlfriend of a Ukrainian who stayed by his side to fight by his side. The United States is not going in because Biden knows that will trigger World War III. As he doesn't get it, it's already been triggered by Putin. He already knew sanctions would be made. He knew this. He knew this. He knew all of this. That's why he's doing it. It's because he knows America will not go in until a certain line gets crossed. And that's a big mistake, military strategy-wise. Because remember, Brigham Young, almost 200 years ago, said, "The earth and the kingdoms thereof will be given unto the saints of the Most High God." And his additional information: the council in the valley of Adamondiaman is to be of the greatest importance to this world. At that time there will be a transfer of authority from the usurper and impostor Lucifer to the rightful King Jesus Christ. They know Jesus is not our Christ. They know Constantine created him. They say that to deceive Mormons. As I mentioned the other day, as I watched the first episode of Big Love again, the president of that FLDS church, that fictional church, comes to Bill Paxton's character about his new Home Depot store, whatever it was called, being opened up here in Utah, as the offices are right across the street from Temple Square. See the Salt Lake Temple in the background. And the president of the church comes to him and says, "You owe me 15% of anything this store makes." Yep, that's mafia. That's what Brigham Young had. That's what the church is doing to us with tithing. It is called a protection racket. And we're being shook down by the church, as the church, now under Nelson, is separating us. The great sieve from Heber C. Kimball. But they're kicking out the righteous. And we all know what will happen once the righteous are kicked out. And this is what I've been warning about all these years. From that big bombshell video of mine in July 2017. And it doesn't appear you guys fully grasped what I was talking about back then. But I sacrificed my life to try to save yours, as many as I could. And so now I'm calling upon you to save others' lives, at least in your own family. Get them home. If you know members, get them away. We do not have Zion. It shall be called New Jerusalem, a land of peace, a city of refuge, a place of safety for the saints. That is not the kingdoms of the earth. That is a city. Joseph Smith had no intention of conquering the world. His Christ, pause for effect, had no intention of conquering the world. Do you see this with what I read to you from Brigham Young and from Joseph Fielding Smith, which is a sad tale? His father, Senior, the son of Hiram Smith, who was murdered by John Taylor with my third great-grandfather's pistol. Heber C. Kimball, who ordered that, took his mother and himself hostage, brought them to Utah, and then indoctrinated Senior, who then indoctrinated Junior, to turn them away from our scriptures, that we were supposed to have our own city, and 19 July 1840, two mountain cities of Zion and New Jerusalem in southern Illinois. But Brigham Young didn't want that put in the Doctrine and Covenants, but he left this in there and still said, the kingdoms of the world will give their kingdoms to the church. That's not scriptural. Joseph Smith wanted to save America, to save the Constitution, to save the government. And Benson gets up in conference, the BYU devotional, he took it out for the conference talk, or the church took it out because of the controversy of the extra information. It will not be saved in Washington. He threw in the but, saying Joseph Smith will be wrong. And then Bruce R. McConkey's Holocaust. I've done the research. I know the real church history. And going back and listening to these frauds, it terrifies me. We do not have this. There is no place for us to go for peace, safety, and refuge. And you guys are completely unaware of section 103 verse 16. I will raise up a mortal man, mortal parents, Mormon, my people, who shall lead the Mormons like as Moses. A man like Moses, and you don't even know about him, let alone that it's about to hit the fan.